Okay. So this is the slide you should have seen when I was talking about the turnover that we've seen in the legislature. 37 new members will be sworn in January. 57 of the 99 assembly members and 20 of the 33 Senate members have been elected in the last 4 years. All right, and going into election day, there were 7 states, including Wisconsin, that were labeled as toss-up states based on the polling averages. Those represented 93 electoral votes and were the final targets of the presidential campaigns. We saw a lot of those here in Wisconsin. We also saw a lot of ads. And as we all know, Trump swept all of those states, which I don't think anyone expected. He also received more electoral college votes than in any previous election that he has been a part of. He also picked up Nevada for the first time. Wisconsin had our highest voter turnout in a presidential election with 3.4 million voters. That was an increase of over 80,000 voters from the 2020 presidential election. And while the unofficial 72.6% turnout rate didn't beat the 73.24 that was set in 2004 or the 72.94% of the last presidential election, there were many more raw votes cast, but that's mostly a reflection of a growing voting age population. For the fifth time in the last 7 elections, and for the third time in a row, the winner in Wisconsin was decided by less than 1% of the vote. Trump won by 0.7% in 2016, Biden won by 0.7% in 2020, and Trump won this time by 0.9%. And for those who are keeping track of the alleged bellwether of Sauk County and Door County, deciding who would be the winner of the election in Wisconsin, it looks like Sauk County is now the sole bellwether because Vice President Harris won a majority of the votes in Door County. Looking at the individual candidate performance, Harris received the second most votes of any Democratic presidential candidate in Wisconsin history. President Obama received 9,000 more votes in 2008. However, that was with a voting age population that was roughly 400,000 voters smaller. So that was a more significant feat there. Former President Trump was able to improve his previous performance by 87,000 votes to almost 1.7 million votes overall, securing more votes than any presidential candidate in state history. That's 20,000 more votes than Obama in 2008, but again, the voting age population has grown by nearly 400,000 since then. The top 10 vote producing counties in Wisconsin, and I'll show them on the next slide, account for 54% of the total votes in Wisconsin. This is typically where Democrats are able to run up their vote totals in the state. The remaining 62 counties are where Republicans usually have an advantage. And among the top 10 counties, Harris had a 246,000 vote advantage on Trump, but trailed Biden's 2020 advantage of 252,000. In the other 62 counties, Trump ran up a 276,000 vote advantage on Harris, which was significantly larger than the 230,000 vote advantage he had over Biden. The result was Trump um, having a 29,000 vote lead, whereas Biden in 2020 won by 20,000. Here are the top 10 vote producing counties. Harris grew the vote total in these 10 counties by 23,000 votes, but despite a big gain in Dane County, underperformed Biden in Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, and Rock counties. Trump overperformed his 2020 results in these top 10 counties by 29,000, minimizing the advantage that Democrats were expecting in these more populous areas. In the remaining 62 counties, Harris again grew her vote total over Biden, but only by 14,000 votes. compared to Trump, who grew his vote total in these counties by over 58,000 votes. Moving over to the U.S. Senate. There were 34 U.S. Senate seats up during this election cycle, 23 Democratic held seats and 11 Republican held. Because of this, Democrats were playing more defense and Republicans were playing more offense. Democrats started with a 51 to 49 majority. So for Republicans to capture the majority, they needed a net gain of 2 seats. They were virtually guaranteed to get to 50 with the West Virginia seat, um, but capturing the 51st vote was where most of the activity was. But they had options. Republicans picked up 4 seats and now have a 53 to 47 majority in the U.S. Senate. Tester was one that was expected. Casey was a bit surprising, and Sherrod Brown was also surprising. Senator Tammy Baldwin successfully defended her seat in a challenging electoral environment, winning by a margin similar to the presidential race, less than 1%. That was expected based on the polling averages heading into election day, but not expected based on her past performance. But this was a race where her numbers merged in with the vote preferences of the broader electorate. Eric Hovde, as of this morning, at least I believe as of this morning, still has not conceded, but every major news outlet has called the race for Senator Baldwin. A couple interesting notes about the U.S. Senate race in Wisconsin. Senator Baldwin outperformed Vice President Harris by about 4,000 votes. And if you look at where she did better, it wasn't in the top 10 vote producing counties. It was in the remaining 62 counties where she overperformed. Hovde, on the other hand, significantly underperformed Trump by 54,000 votes, getting fewer votes in almost every county. One of the only places Hovde did better than Trump was in Waukesha County. A couple other notes not captured on this slide. There were approximately 28,000 fewer votes in the U.S. Senate race than in the presidential. So there were many voters who voted for a presidential candidate and not a U.S. Senate candidate. There were also 71,000 third-party candidate votes in the U.S. Senate race, which was about 20,000 more than in the presidential race, where 50,000 voters voted for someone other than Trump and Harris. Moving briefly to the race for control of the House of Representatives. All 435 House seats were up, but all of the attention was on 40 Democratic held seats and 29 Republican held seats. Wisconsin had 2 seats on the inner outer edges of the competitive ring with incumbents Derek Van Orden in western Wisconsin and Brian Stile in southeast Wisconsin. Going into election day, if Republicans held their competitive seats and Democrats held theirs, it would be a 221 GOP majority. To get the majority, Democrats needed to hold all their seats and pick up 4 to get to 218. Neither side held all their incumbents, and that has left the discussion on the control a little up in the air, but this is not necessarily true anymore because not only did Decision Desk project a GOP majority on Monday, NBC and CBS followed suit yesterday, and we've seen even more outlets call this for the Republicans as of this morning. Wisconsin's congressional delegation returns with the same composition as before, with Congressman Van Orden and Stile winning re-election. The Wisconsin delegation has a new member in Congressman Tony Weed. Not only did he win a general election on Tuesday, but he won a special election to fill out the remainder of former Congressman Gallagher's term. He was sworn into office on Tuesday. And on to the state results. As a reminder, there are 132 lawmakers in the state capitol, 99 members of the state assembly, and 33 members of the state senate. As a result of this election cycle, there will be 37 new lawmakers sworn into office in January, a near historic number, just trailing the number that were sworn in January 2011 following the 2010 midterm elections. And this is on the heels of an election 2 cycles ago, or 2 years ago, that sent 31 new lawmakers to the Capitol. That makes 68 new lawmakers in the last two elections. 27 lawmakers announced they would not be returning to their current seats earlier this year, which isn't uncommon when there are new legislative maps. And this is 2 cycles in a row that we've had new maps. Four incumbents were defeated in the August primaries. Three of the incumbent Assembly Republicans were paired together in the same new Assembly district, forcing them to primary one another if they wanted to return to the Capitol without having to move to a new district. So three had to lose in that scenario. Senator Dan Knoll decided to challenge Representative Janelle Brandtjen rather than be in a primary with Senator Dewey Strobel, who he was paired with in the same Senate district. Last Tuesday, 6 incumbent Republicans lost their reelection bids, 2 members of the state Senate and 4 members of the state Assembly. Of the 37 new lawmakers, 31 are members of the state Assembly, 23 new Democratic members, and 8 new Republican members. And in the state Senate, there are 6 new members, and all 6 are Democrats. Going into Election Day, both Republicans and Democrats agreed on what the playing field for control of the Assembly was. Of the 99 seats, Republicans were secure in retaining 46 seats, and Democrats were secure in retaining 41. So 12 seats were going to determine which party was going to control the Assembly. Republicans needed to win 4 to get them to 50, and Democrats had to win 9 to get them to 50. If you talk to Democrats, they believe they had a ceiling that could get them to the majority based on historic performance of those districts. And as you can see by the blue bars, 9 of the 12 most competitive races had a Democratic lean based on recent performance. Governor Evers 2 years ago got more votes than Tim Michels in 11 of 12 of these 12 seats. If you talk to Republicans, they believe they had an advantage in these races with 8 incumbents that had a proven track record and a connection to the districts. The result? Republicans won 8 of the 12 competitive seats and lost only 1 incumbent in Representative Amy Binsfeld. So they will start the next session with a 54 to 45 majority. Democrats, however, did gain 10 seats this cycle, significantly narrowing the majority that Republicans enjoyed last session, picking up 6 seats that were more Democratic leaning under the new maps and winning 4 of the competitive seats. Republicans won their 8 seats by significantly overperforming. They secured more support than the Republicans that ran at the top of the ticket in those districts in recent years. Races of note that really emphasize that are Representative Todd Novak and Jesse Rodriguez. In Novak's case, Republicans have lost this district by 8%, but he won it by 4. And in Rodriguez's case, she won by 2%, while Republicans have lost that district by 6% in recent years. On the Democratic side, Representative Steve Doyle, similar to Novak, continues to overperform the historic trends in his district. The incoming 54-45 majority is the narrowest majority Republicans have had since they retook the majority in 2010. And again, just to stress the significant amount of turnover that we've experienced and to stress the importance of effective advocacy, 22 of the 54 Assembly Republicans have been elected in the last 3 elections. 35 of the 45 Assembly Democrats have been elected in the last 3 elections, including 23 this cycle. 57 of the 99 have 4 years or less of legislative experience. Moving on to the state Senate. Wisconsin state senators serve 4-year terms, and their terms are staggered. so only half of the state Senate is up every 2 years. 16 of the 33 Wisconsin state Senate seats are up this election. 12 Republican seats and 5 Democratic seats were not up this election. Based on the historic performance of their districts, we know that 6 of the Republican-held seats up this cycle were safe Republican seats, and 5 were safe Democratic seats. So at a minimum, Republicans were going to return next session with 18 seats, giving them one more seat than they need for a majority in the state Senate. There were 5 competitive seats up this cycle. Democrats needed to win 4 of them to have a shot at the majority in the 2026 election. Going into Election Day, Democrats thought they had an advantage in all 5 seats. They had a historic performance advantage in 4 of them. And then the 8th Senate district, they had a candidate who had previously run in that seat in a special election and narrowly lost. And that seat had gotten more Democratic leaning under the new maps. Similar to the Republicans in the Assembly, Republicans argued that they had 2 incumbents running for re-election with proven track records who were embedded in the community. So they had higher expectations than you would think. Democrats won all 5 competitive seats. It was a clean sweep. And Democrats did it by overperforming in all of their races versus the historic performance of those districts, with the exception of the 14th against incumbent Republican Senator Joan Ballweg. Republicans now have their narrowest majority in that House in over a decade. And similar to the turnover in the state assembly, over half of the state Senate has been elected in the last 3 election cycles. 10 of the 18 Republican senators and 10 of the Democratic senators. 20 of the 33 senators have been elected in the past 3 elections. Looking ahead to 2026, for Democrats to have an opportunity to get the majority in 2026, they needed to come back with at least 14 seats because there are 4 competitive seats up in 2026, 3 Republican held and 1 Democratic held. There's a lot of time between now and 2026 and a lot of variables, but Democrats would need to hold the 31st Senate district represented by Senator Smith and pick up 2 of the competitive Republican held seats. And as you can see, those are within reach and either leaning Democratic or toss-up. But they're also running against incumbents. For those of you currently experiencing election withdrawals, and I hope you're not, but if you are, you're in luck. There's another big election right around the corner. So you'll once again be inundated with TV ads and hopefully fewer text messages. Control of the state Supreme Court is up again this spring. Liberals captured the court in 2023 and have had the majority on the court for the first time in 15 years. Justice Ann Walsh Bradley, a liberal, is not seeking re-election, meaning liberals need to protect the seat to maintain their majority, and conservatives need to win the seat to regain their majority. If liberals win this spring, they will maintain the majority at least until 2028 because conservatives have incumbents up in 2026 and 2027. If conservatives win this spring, they will be defending their majority on the court right away in 2026 and again in 2027. There are 2 announced candidates so far in this race. Dane County Circuit Court Judge and former Department of Justice Assistant Attorney General Susan Crawford, and Waukesha County Circuit Court Judge and former Attorney General Brad Schimmel. 138 days until that election. Looking ahead to the upcoming legislative session. Senate Republicans have elected their caucus leadership, with Senator Mary Felskowski and Senator Rachel Cabral Guevara joining the ranks. Assembly Republicans re-elected Robin Vos as Speaker and welcomed Representative Scott Krug to leadership. Senate Democrats re-elected Senator Dianne Hasselbein as minority leader, albeit this time for a full term. She replaced Senator Melissa Agard during the last session after she announced her campaign for Dane County Executive. Senator Mark Spreitzer moved up from caucus vice chair to caucus chair, besting Senator Chris Larson, and freshman Senator Dora Drake moved into the leadership post that Spreitzer vacated. Assembly Democrats are currently planning to elect their caucus leadership on Tuesday. With Senators Strobel and Ballweg losing their elections, two spots open up on the Senate side of the powerful Joint Finance Committee. With Senator Felskowski assuming the role of Senate President, it is expected that she will have someone else fill her seat on the committee. With Representative Katzma opting against seeking re-election this year, his seat has opened up on the Assembly side of JFC. In recent days, leadership have begun setting expectations for the upcoming session. Speaker Voss intends for Republicans to set the legislative agenda once again and return the state's $3.5 billion surplus to taxpayers. On the flip side, Minority Leader Hesselbein wants to see the surplus used for K-12 education. Majority Leader Lemieux also wants to see the surplus returned to taxpayers, though he signaled an openness to bipartisan solutions. And Minority Leader Neubauer has highlighted some healthcare priorities that most other states have enacted, expanding Medicaid and extending postpartum coverage to a full year, things that you would think would be low-hanging fruit. And back to where we started. We're going into a unique environment with lots of new lawmakers and tight majorities, and effective advocacy will be important, especially with those members who represent really competitive districts. We can open it up to questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Adam. That was insightful. Lots of great data, lots of great information, particularly for organizations like ours that are advocacy organizations. If folks have a question, either put your question in the chat or raise your hand. We've got plenty of time for questions. Who has the first question?
I can.
Okay, I'll start.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Kit.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. That was a great slide deck. Thank you for sharing it. We really appreciate all your insights. Coming into a session that we are looking at potentially the governor being someone who may not run for reelection and be considered a lame duck. And a lot of people are speculating that Speaker Voss is potentially having his last session in the legislature. How do you think that's going to impact the budget process?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we have clarity yet on whether Evers will run again, and hopefully we'll know soon. I would have thought that if Democrats took a majority in the assembly, he'd be much more likely to run again because that next term would be very different than this one. But there still is an opportunity for Democrats to at least take the Senate in the next election, which would make that next term more interesting. And there's also a chance that Democrats could take the assembly. It'll be a midterm election for which is a referendum on the majority party with the Republican President Donald Trump. So there's a decent chance that he does come back. As far as Speaker Voss, he's already got a tighter majority in this session coming up than he's had, and that is going to force him to operate in ways that he's not used to, and that remains to be seen exactly what to expect. You would expect, I think most people would expect that we'd see more bipartisanship. That may not happen right out of the gate, and unfortunately, the thing that happens right out of the gate is the budget. I think it's going to take some time for members to come to grips with the reality of operating in a situation with smaller majorities and operating in scenarios where they have so many members that are in competitive districts that need to be more responsive to the needs um, of the overall electorate, and they're going to be more susceptible to advocacy that gets attention on them for what they're doing or not doing. So, um, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, and I think there's going to be some bumps in the road in the first several months, but hopefully everybody hits their stride around July, which is when the budget's due. It's gonna be trial by fire for the next few months.
I mean, these members are going to have to figure out which direction of the building is north, south, east, or west, and I'm in that capital every day, and that's not an easy thing to do, right? Just look at the light bulbs. There's your key. Look at the light bulbs. Kit, thank you for the question. Amy, up next.
Yeah, Adam, you mentioned joint finance being, a committee that's going to change dramatically. Are there other committees with the shifts that are sort of things that committees that we should be watching for changes and shifts in maybe their political philosophy?
Well, the JFC is the one that we focus on just because of the influence that they have. There are probably other committees that will also experience some turnover, but it'll be at least a couple of weeks until we know what the composition of those will be. But once those committee assignments are made, we'll be analyzing that and getting communications out to our clients to make sure that they understand what those changes are and kind of what they mean for how the committee operates.
Good, good. I know,
Right off the bat, we're already expecting that Senator Felskowski will not be chairing the insurance committee,
mhm,
um, just based on her being Senate president and wanting to focus on that role, particularly focusing on having a better performance in 2026 than Senate Republicans had in this race. So this is going to be an important cycle coming up for them to try and retain that majority. So I think it's going to be all hands on deck and focused on helping the caucus to achieve that goal.
that's great. Thank you. I know from um, the perspective of, also being on the WHLA board, there's some shifts with some champions of tourism that aren't necessarily concerning, but there's a lot of educational effort that's going to have to happen around tourism,
Hmm.
um, with a lot of new members and some of the most stalwart people who supported tourism for the state not having won. So there's definitely some advocacy efforts that people are ramping up for. And I think in Madison, we should be thinking about there's a great opportunity to educate
Hmm.
people on some of these opportunities. And that's one of my other questions. I don't want to take everyone's time if there's other people who want to jump in, but one of the questions I'd have for you is as 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 we begin to think about, some of the factors that are impacting Madison, specifically with the referendum that we just went through and what have you, what advice would you have about how we can be best organized to educate, advocate, help Madison be more effective at the state capitol?
Hmm. Yeah, so it's going to be important in this session for leaders in Madison, whether they be elected officials or business leaders, to be educating lawmakers on both sides of the aisle about the importance of municipalities uh, getting more shared revenue. So there was a big shared revenue deal in the last session, which helped a lot of municipalities. There are also a lot that still need more. And Madison's not the only one that's in that boat, and it's not just large cities that are in that boat. Milwaukee's doing a lot better. They got city and county sales tax, but there are a lot of other mid-sized cities and large cities that are still hurting. And there may not be an appetite right away to do something about that at the state level, but to the extent that business leaders and elected leaders actually go into the Capitol, talk with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle to make that case in a concerted way and and do it effectively. I think there is an opportunity to trying to refocus the legislature on the need to do that, especially with how many new lawmakers we have coming in this session.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like from a business community perspective, or from from what I do from a tourism perspective, we don't necessarily have to wait for the city of Madison to go in and make its pitch. It'll do that, but I do
Mhm.
think the business community needs to begin to talk more deliberately with the legislature about just what an economic engine Madison is, and we're a bit disadvantaged in the state aid formula. So I think it would I think there's a real opportunity here, and I think if I'm understanding things correctly, I think that opportunity only gets bigger over the next couple of years too.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's an opportunity this session, an even bigger opportunity after the 2026 election. But I think it would be a mistake to not try in this session as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Adam. Other questions for Adam? Well, all right. Well, Adam Barr, partner, Michael Best Strategies, and DMI board member, thank you very much for your insights, your data. This was very impressive. I learned a lot about what the new legislature is going to look like, particularly on the state side. So we really do appreciate all of your help. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Adam. A couple of updates for the committee as well. Speaking of politics, and Adam didn't address this, but the endorsements, both MMSD's capital and operating and the City of Madison's operating referendum were all approved by the voters on November 5th. DMI's board of directors did support the endorsements as a government relations committee, that half the group here did make that recommendation, and the board of directors moved forward and did decide to endorse, and all of those endorsements were, of course, successful. So we're very thankful. On a government relations side, the executive committee did meet this week, and there is the intent to continue the endorsement process for local elections. Adam brought up the Supreme Court election in April of 2025. There also will be all 20 alders in the city of Madison will be up for election again. And it's our intent for the Government Relations Committee to again run the endorsement process, which we successfully ran last year, where 35 of the 36 candidates we could have had meetings with decided to meet with us and sought endorsement. So I know, Kit and Margaret and Lincoln and a whole series of you all that have been part of that process. Rick, Kurt, a bunch of you all. I don't know why am I naming names because I'm going to forget somebody, but all of you that were part of that process, thank you. So we look forward to doing that again. This will be the last time, though, that we have to endorse 20 folks, the 20 districts at once. Moving forward in elections, they will split by odd and even in the election years. That is a change that that was approved in the council about a year ago or so. I can't remember
I
correctly,
don't
but
remember.
something like that. So that it will be a little bit easier because it is a jam-packed quarter for the Government Relations Committee to get all of those meetings. So the filing deadline for those folks is the first week of January, and so we will have meetings subsequently thereafter. On the economic development side of things, the Affordable Student Housing Working Group finalized their recommendations to the City of Madison to help with the affordable housing situation for students. Those recommendations were put forward. Big thanks to Bill Connors, who I think is on. Is on. Thank you, Bill. MGR Govindarajan, the alder for the 8th District. They helped testify in front of that Housing Strategy Committee, and they moved forward on all of our recommendations. Made a couple of modifications, but I think, Bill, it would be argued that the Housing Strategy Committee's amendments actually strengthened some of our recommendations. Bill, anything you'd add
I
on that
I
side?
agree. I agree with that. I think they made them better.
Yeah, yeah. Really looking at the entitlement process overall, how could we help the entitlement process to make these projects a little bit easier to come to fruition and maybe cut some costs that then could be passed on to the renters. There were several positive things there as well. So please send me a note if you want to know exactly what those recommendations were. Three other notes. We're very proud to help. Oh, yes, Amy Supple. Amy Supple has a question, and she's the chair. No, keep going. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Yeah, no, you got a question?
When you're done, just want to ask Adam a question.
Oh, fantastic. All right, I'll be done in 2 seconds here. We are very proud to help establish several neighborhood business districts here in the downtown through the partnership with the city. Unfortunately, under COVID, several neighborhood business districts, which the chamber does a great job of bringing us all together, but aren't as many left. We've been helping with the Cat Beast Business Association, which Kurt Brink is a board member. He's on right now, but also the Williamson Marquette Business Alliance. It's a new group helping with Willie Street and their businesses. Both We Are Willie and Guava are no longer in existence. And boy, that's a hugely important, vital street for the city of Madison and all the small businesses there. So DMI has been helping on the administrative side, and they had their first meeting just a few days ago with great attendance, a great board of directors. We're very excited to see Willie Street back up and engaged. It's so important to a vibrant downtown. Another group, I know Tara and a few others are on the Brayton Lot working group from last year. The city has an update. The Brayton Lots RFP has been approved by the city, by the mayor, and it is been brought to the council. Will be brought to the council here in the next couple of weeks. And their hope is it'll be approved at the January 14th meeting, and then that Brayton Lot RFP will be out on the street quickly thereafter. We're hearing late January. Again, Brayton Lot is that full surface parking lot that is currently being used for BRT construction, which is just finished up, but it's bounded by East Wash, Butler, Main, and it's either Franklin or Hancock. I always confuse the two streets. Sorry, I'm supposed to be
Hancock, I think.
Thank you. I'm supposed to be Mr. Downtown, and I literally can't remember that. At least it doesn't have a B in the name, like Blount, Butler, Blair, Broome. Too many B's downtown.
Those are the
Anyway,
ones I mix up.
they're Bassett. They're everywhere. They are everywhere. Last up, and really exciting news for DMI. Our friends, and I know Brian is on from Destination Madison. We've hired a new joint employee, a director of placemaking and economic development. Emily DeVore will start on Monday, November 18th. It's a 50-50 partnership between the two organizations. Brian, as head of HR for Destination Madison, was a huge partner in this. We're super excited to bring in Emily, and we're super excited to strengthen our partnership with one of our great partners, Destination Madison. Emily is fantastic. Most recently was an interior architect with Flad. And some of you might know her from her great work of helping create the Lakefront Porch, which is a really amazing placemaking project on top of the well cap, right across, basically across from the Essen House on Wilson Street. Brian, anything you would add about the partnership and how we're moving forward?
I will just mostly second all of what Jason just said. Super excited to bring Emily on board. We were fortunate to receive about 50 applications for the job of director of placemaking. Some very qualified people that we interviewed, some very qualified people that we couldn't interview just because of the the time of the interviewing panel and the volume that we had. So very fortunate. Emily starts on Monday, and we'll be going through a series of orientation with both us and DMI, and we're going to have fun along the way because we're basically, making up this process
All new.
of sharing an employee. We've never done it before. It'll be fun and exciting and entrepreneurial is the way that Jason put it, and I think that's accurate.
That this position will help this committee out significantly, and of course, help out the strategic visioning plan, which we are launching early next year with our friends at the City of Madison. The last announcement before Amy has the final word is it's almost the holiday season. Although I went to Costco like 6 weeks ago, and they already had Christmas trees. So maybe it starts in September now, earlier. But one thing you can do is not go to Costco like me. I know I had to get something. I had to get bulk honey bunches of oats, I think. But what you need to do is support our friends at the Madison Central Business Improvement District and all of the local businesses here in downtown. They do a wonderful job bringing people downtown. Please come shop on State Street, shop on the Capitol Square. Peggy Gunderson is here, the chair of the Madison Central Business Improvement District. Please do come down, enjoy Shine on Madison. Peggy, I know you've got a big announcement about who is going to light the Christmas tree this year.
We do. I'm really excited. So we're lighting up downtown, Shine on Madison. It's Saturday, November 23rd at 5 p.m. at Peace Park, but of course, up and down the district. And this year, we're excited to have none other than Mike Leckrone, former UW marching band director, light up the downtown. So we're very excited about that. Thanks, Jason.
Absolutely. Mike, he's known to have a little bit of flair.
Yeah.
So it should be very good.
He's
And
also
just
comfortable on a
remember,
ladder.
yeah, very comfortable on a ladder. Although those that were rotary, there was one where I think he did some sort of wire down from the ceiling of the field house. That was the one he was like, I don't know why I did that one. And I'm sure the insurance company asked the same thing. And I will note, November 23rd is 2 days before my birthday. So there you go, November 25th. We're really big announcements. All right, Amy, save me here before I just keep rambling.
I did want to add one more
Oh,
thing. So
yes,
the
Adam.
last slide of our presentation had a QR code on it. Um, that allows you to get our weekly updates. Every Friday, we send out communication that has a summary of all things government and advocacy that happened that week. And we also send out one-off alerts from time to time when there are important things that happen. I
Awesome.
will be sharing this deck with Jason
We'll
and
send it out.
we'll be
Yep.
able to get it out to everyone. So if you didn't use that QR code today to sign up for those updates, you can do that when you get the slide deck in the next couple days.
Awesome. Well, Adam, I'm 47. How do you use a QR code? No, just kidding. Just kidding. Amy, last word.
Adam literally just said exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, honestly, sign up for it. It's really good. I mean, look, the more
It is.
information we have, the better off we're going to be. No matter what political stripe you are, no matter who you are, understanding what's going on is the most important. And Adam, thank you. You helped educate us today, and we're so thankful for your service on the DMI Board of Directors and for our community. Really, really thankful for what you just discussed here. This has been recorded as well. And so we will get that out to the members. We'll send out that recording, plus we'll send out the deck once Adam sends it to me to both committees. We will meet again, both committees in December. December for government relations. We're going to talk about what the endorsement process is going to look like and how you want to run it. And Amy and I, we're still thinking of topics. Maybe we have a topic. I can't remember. Anyway, for yes, Kurt Brink
I
gets
think
the
a
last word.
topic to
Apparently.
hit is
Yes.
what Amy just said. The state aid formula is so critical, and the issue with Madison, we've never had a full-time lobbyist. I think what's very critical is like what Amy said, is we've got to work through us and DMI and get different people out to lunch and get to know them like you do on anything. They get to know you, so it, all someone's vote comes on state aid, because it is really killing us. It's going to kill us on our valuations and our commercial properties when our property taxes keep going up, and plus what's killing us in our property insurance. So I think that's the thing we've got to work towards, because Amy hit it on the head. We don't get our fair share. We can't keep raising taxes to be our critical area and how we break the 33 senators and 99 assembly people, to how we break it down, who's going to vote, and especially have a chance, which just brought up all the new people in, because that is more critical to the Dink area, Madison area than anything. Because as we were dealing with another point, Jason, it's so helpful with you coming in, being kind of our coordinator for our different business associations, is we got to send a message out as we move through that. And as we work through the different things with the county that we're working through, it's critical, and they're short on budgets. So I think we have to work out a plan how we get shared aid better, but we work through it to where all those legislators know who we are and how critical it is, because they don't pay anything to us for even all their properties. So that was rambling, but I think Amy,
Here, Kurt.
we can't ignore it.
I want
Absolutely.
to just recognize that Kurt looks like a professor right now on the screen. and I appreciate that.
Yes.
No, but Kurt, you're very
You're spot on.
spot on.
That is
And
volumes and volumes of bound materials.
yes, exactly. Exactly. I think there's an opportunity and a responsibility here for us to begin to think about this in the broader context of how business can intersect with some of these issues. So
Absolutely.
let's
Absolutely.
we'll that will definitely be part of the conversation. Jason doesn't know this, but I do have a plan for December. But I need to run it by him.
Do it now, and then we'll be one last email.
Why not? Why not? All right. Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
thank you all for joining us. The one last note with the one election we did not discuss at all was that there is a new county executive, Melissa Agard. She was sworn in yesterday. As Kurt brought, the state is very important to downtown. The county is absolutely important to downtown. I mean, you name it. If it's the zoos, it's the water, it's the Lion Energy Center, it's the airport, it's, there's just a jail, there's a whole series of things, Health and Human Services. So we're going to be working actively with Melissa Agard and her team, Carrie and Aaron, to move things forward. So huge congratulations to Melissa Agard as being installed as our next county executive. So we're very excited to work with Melissa. So, all right. Anyone else, have a wonderful rest of your week, a good weekend, and let's say go Badgers. A couple of big games this weekend. So go Badgers. Talk to you soon. Thank you, Adam.